Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. Hi, I'm Iris Acker, and I'm your host today. Let's meet our panel. First up, I have Michael McKeever, who's a playwright and an actor. Karen Stevens, who is an actress and, in fact, a writer. Bill Hirschman is our theater critic. Our guest is Jennifer Carlin Kronenberg, and the topic for today's show is, so you want to be a ballet dancer?
I do.
I do, still.
Wow, surprises. Jennifer is the prima ballerina for the Miami City Ballet. Welcome again, Jennifer.
Thank you, Iris.
Pleasure to have you here. Since I'm the host, I get to ask the first question. Is everything really beautiful at the ballet?
We like to believe that it is, but what you see on stage is very different than what goes on behind the scenes. So just like any other profession, and especially within the arts, no, everything is not always beautiful. There's
At the ballet.
Yeah, there can be a lot of strife.
All right, let's start because we have a book. So here you are, prima ballerina, you're constantly in class and rehearsing. Why the book?
Well, you know, now that I'm in the latter part of my career, unfortunately the dance career just doesn't last as long as we would like it to, mostly for the physical aspect of it. I started thinking about what I could transition into possibly and what else I was passionate about, and writing has always been another passion of mine, as well as teaching and kids. And it seemed like the best way to combine all three of those was to write a book about what I know for a younger audience. And actually my husband, Carlos Guerra, who you've met, he's also a principal dancer with the company. He pushed me to do this because he knows how passionate I am about those three things. So I figured while I'm still dancing and have, you know, well, not so much spare time, but still have everything fresh in my mind, I should get, you know, what I know down on paper.
Makes sense.
And
Karen,
that's how it started
you used to be a
going.
dancer?
Yes, I started dancing when I was 14. I started taking ballet. It was my idea. I wish I'd started earlier. When did you start? Two-part question. When did you start dancing, and what age do you recommend for a young person to start, especially a female, if she wants to go on point eventually?
I started dancing when I was about 7.5 years old. That seems to be the general age, more or less, for kids to go into ballet. Point work is something a little bit different. There's not a specific age. I started point when I must have been about 12.5, almost 13 years old. But it depends more upon your physical strength and capabilities more than age. You just have to be ready. Your ankles have to be ready, your calves. It's so important that your muscles are ready to support the weight, you know, of the point shoes.
When I was in college, I had my dance instructor had us do bar work in the middle of the floor. Mm-hmm. We couldn't use the bar.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was actually great for developing strength because you didn't have the bar to rely on and support yourself. So so I could have gone on point starting dancing at 14. That late?
Yeah, oh
Really?
Sure. I don't see why not.
My next life.
Well, I'm sitting here marveling because you're obviously in great shape. You look very fit, and yet you're talking about that, you know, you're coming towards, you know, the latter part.
Yeah.
Could you talk about some of the physical demands of being a ballerina?
Sure. Well, ballet training is completely unnatural. You know, we force our turnout from our hips. We're on point. Which, you know, that's just not, your little toes were not made to support your entire body weight. As thin as we are, it's still, you know, a tremendous amount of stress on all of the joints in the foot. And it's just so many hours of physical practice every day. A typical day for me starts at 10, and I rehearse all the way until 6:30 with 1 hour for lunch. Yeah, and that's just about every day. Now, when we're in the theater with performances, our days are even longer. And
is that pretty? That's pretty standard.
It's pretty
regimen?
standard.
Wow.
Yeah, and that really takes a toll physically on the body. When you get to a certain point, you know, it's really sad because I feel like at my stage, artistically, I'm at a certain level, and while the artistry is going up, physically, you're on the downslope. So it's difficult. It's difficult.
Interesting.
Why does that happen if you're in such tip-top physical condition? How does that slide, that downward slide, happen so fast? I mean, I know the body
it's
ages.
Like any athlete, really. You know, though we are artists, we are athletes at the end of the day. And if you look at any Olympic athlete, where their peak is, it's almost even younger than ours.
Right.
You know, it's abusive. It's abusive on the body.
Wow.
Question, the training, you're talking about all that, are there good schools and bad schools?
I wouldn't go so far to say good schools and bad schools, but there are very big differences within the training at different schools. You know, it depends on what your focus is. Do you want to be a professional? Are you doing it just for fun? You know, is ballet your main focus, or is hip hop your main focus? And, you know, unfortunately in this country, anyone can open a ballet school. There are no requirements. You know, you don't need a certain degree. There's nobody regulating what schools are open. So, you know, you have people opening schools who were not necessarily professional dancers, who don't necessarily have the best interests of the students in mind. They're money-making businesses, and, you know, therein lies differences in training. So.
What is it that when you're talking to a civilian that they don't understand about the ballet? If you meet somebody on the street and you go, yes, I'm a ballet dancer and I'm writing, what is it that you think the general populace just doesn't know about it?
Oh, quite a bit.
Such a specifics.
I think the first thing that they don't realize is how very hard it is. The second thing that they don't realize is that this is a career. It's a profession. I think the best comment that I've gotten, or question that I've gotten, is, well, what do you really do? Or what are you going to do? You know,
what's your day job?
Yeah, what's your day job? Exactly. This is it. This is what I do. This is all encompassing. It takes every minute of my time. You know, they just don't realize that this is an actual career. You know.
What do they not understand about the art form itself? I mean, I think we were discussing the opera a week or two ago. What is it that they don't understand about how accessible it is, how encompassing and welcoming it is, as opposed to, I think, the image that people have that have never been, or they've only seen it on great performances on PBS or something?
I think people have this stereotype in their mind about ballet. They think ballet and automatically they think Swan Lake, which is beautiful, but that's not all that ballet is. It's very accessible. For example, Miami City Ballet will do one full length a year if we do that, but most of our programs are mixed repertory programs. You'll have something more contemporary, you'll have a balancing, you'll have a classical, so there's something for everybody's taste. I think a lot of people don't realize that until they go, and then they say, wow, that was really entertaining. Wow, we loved it. Now that we're having all of these new reality shows, you know, or the Black Swan came out, I think people are starting to, it sparked a little bit of an interest in people that maybe wouldn't necessarily be interested in the ballet, or at least it sparked a conversation about ballet. It's not necessarily how we want to be represented as ballet dancers, but at least it's opening people's eyes and curiosities about it, I think.
I do have to say that the few times I've gone, and you can count them on one hand, to any kind of significant dance recital by true professionals, I've always found that it never holds a candle to when you see it on tape or on film or on television.
No.
There's absolutely a complete disconnect, because to see it live, again, I haven't got a lot of experience, but what I've seen is breathtaking. And particularly not just what the camera focuses on, but the whole stage picture.
Sure.
And the ensemble and the relationship that the choreographer has gone to great trouble to create, in addition to whatever, you know, the principals are dancing. Can you talk a little about what it's like when you're actually seeing it in a theater as opposed to secondhand?
Sure. Well, I think that applies to any performing art. You know, as beautiful as it can be on camera, there's nothing like being live in the theater, experiencing it in the now. you know, and I think that the passion of the artists and the dancers really comes through more.
I would imagine there's this great electricity that happens that transfers from the stage to the audience.
There is, and when we have live orchestra, even more so.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're in the moment, and I think that the people in the audience can feel that. And when you see it on camera, it loses some of that electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Auditioning, just getting the role. Let's go back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now, prima ballerina. It sounds wonderful. I mean, I've read your book, and of course, I loved you in your tutu to come into your classes in your little pink tutu, thinking that you rehearsed and you learned in that same outfit.
Mm-hmm.
But today, let's just say yesterday, when you were still auditioning, talk about that.
You know, it's like we're almost constantly auditioning.
Are you still? No.
You know, in a way, yes. In a way, I feel like I am. Because parts are not just, you know, just because I'm a principal dancer, we have several different ballets, and there are other principal dancers. You know, if I don't prove myself, if I don't continue to improve and, you know, take a step up every day, why would the role go to me? They could easily give the role to somebody else. A choreographer that comes in, or a repetiteur that comes in to set a ballet has never seen me dance before. You know, they come in to see a class and they're choosing who they'd like to choreograph on. So if I'm not in my mind auditioning for that person, then why would they put me in the role? You know, and the fact of the matter is I'm there to dance, to do my best to be on stage. I'm not there just to collect a paycheck and go home. So I want to give the best of myself every day, and that almost feels like a constant auditioning process.
Along the same lines as that, is there a role that you really want to play that you haven't played yet, or what are your favorite roles that you've danced?
I have so many favorite roles, but I think one of my ultimate favorites was one that I danced recently, about 3 years ago, Romeo and Juliet.
Nice.
With
Romeo and Juliet.
With your husband?
With my husband.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
That was an added plus. That was one of my favorites.
I don't blame you.
Is it easy dancing opposite your husband, or does it bring in certain new challenges?
There are challenges, but at the same time, it makes it so much easier. On stage, it's so wonderful for me to be with him.
I'm sure there's this wonderful chemistry.
Wonderful chemistry, wonderful trust. He knows me but almost better than I know myself. So if I'm going to do something a little off, so he knows it before I even do it, which is really, really nice. But of course, rehearsing brings in its own challenges because we're so honest with each other. You know, which can be a blessing, but it can be a curse at the same time. At the end of the day, there's nothing better. I would never hope to dance with anybody else. You know, he's the best. He's the best.
Have you danced most of the different styles of dance, like Balanchine and Cicchetti, and did I say that right?
You did?
Okay. And you know, then there are the other ones. There's Twyla Tharp and Robbins and Merce Cunningham, Martha Graham. Have you danced those different styles? If they've been choreographed on you, or I love Twyla Tharp, by the way.
Twyla's amazing. Yeah. She actually, I originated a role for her. She choreographed an original ballet for Miami City Ballet called Night Spot. So working with her was incredible. What a fantastic lady. I mean, she brings things out of you that you didn't know you had in there. She's great. Yeah, but we've danced other of her ballets. We've danced a lot of Jerome Robbins.
Yes.
I have not danced the Martha Graham ballet, but I trained in Martha Graham technique when I was in school, and also the Cicchetti technique. But yeah, with Miami City Ballet, though we do dance mostly Balanchine, we are exposed to the other styles as well, which is really
there's
nice.
so much more to preparing to be on stage. I did not know that for each ballet you do, your hair is prepared differently.
Yes.
And who decides, number one? I mean, let's talk about the difference. I'm looking at your photo right now. High bun. And why high bun and when high bun? You know, and its book is wonderful because it takes the reader through each step on how to do it. For somebody starting out, that's fabulous. So, tell me about that.
Well, it's funny, you know, when I first joined the company, I really had no idea that you wore your hair differently for all different ballets. For me, a bun was a bun, you know, high, low was all the same to me. And, you know, each choreographer will have a specific design in mind for the ballet, and hair is a part of that design. And it's not easy. It's not easy when you have this whole mop of hair to learn how to do it in such a way that it stays secure, you know, throughout the whole ballet and looks right with the headpiece. And sometimes we have a 15-minute intermission in between our ballets where we'll have to change costume, change shoes, change the hair. So you better know what you're doing.
Wow.
And do it quickly.
I would have never thought.
Yeah.
You just don't think about things like that.
And I
Like
think
Swan Lake is a low bun,
It
right?
is. It is. That's right.
But that brings up something. A lot of the people watching this, certainly this one, knows very little about the process. I was once very lucky to watch a brand new musical being choreographed, and as a civilian, I had no idea when you just mentioned a show being choreographed on you. I think most people don't realize that, yes, there are standard repertoires ready, and that you basically go, I'm going to do this the way Balanchine did or Jerome Robinson, but at other times they come in and they develop it with you there. Can you tell people a little bit about that process when you create a role for the first time?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's so exciting.
How does it work?
A choreographer will come in, and you know, they all work differently. There are some that come in with an idea very mapped out in their mind, and the steps are already notated down. They know exactly what they want, and you're their tool, you know, and they tell you what to do very specifically, and you just sort of replicate what they're doing, what they're saying. Then there are other choreographers who see the dancer and the process as more of a collaboration. And, you know, they'll try out different things, and maybe I'll move a little bit differently than somebody else, and they say, oh yeah, I like that, go ahead, you know, that I love.
I was just going to ask, what's your preference? I'm sure there's pluses and minuses for both.
There are, but I love when a choreographer has a little bit of an open mind, and then you feel like you're really originating the role and you're really participating and contributing to what the role becomes.
Can you see yourself doing anything else?
Anything other than dancing? No. No, which is going to be a problem in a few years.
No, but I have to tell you, you speak so well, you're so articulate, you're so just gracious and lovely in how you speak. I think you have a great career as a writer. I think...
Thank you.
And the beauty about being a writer is 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you can keep on writing. The body, you don't need your body for that.
That's right.
Spoken from a writer. Any regrets?
No regrets. No regrets. No. I think maybe the only regret that I have is being so hard on myself. And I think we all as dancers have that problem. We're all perfectionists, and we're all our own worst critics. And I think sometimes I've beat myself down when it wasn't necessary.
And how do you cope with that? What do you do?
I'm still learning to cope with it. It's really not easy. You know, we have this idea in our mind of this perfect being, and at the end of the day, we're human. You know, and a performance will never go as perfectly as you would want it to or expect it to. And you know, you just try and focus on the positives and not the negatives. And you know what has helped me is sitting in the audience and watching, because when you sit back and take a look at it and see how beautiful and remember how beautiful it is, you know, you see, well, you don't notice all of the tiny little imperfections. Okay, so she tripped there, but who cares? You know, that's not what it's about. That's not what the audience is getting from it. And that sort of has helped me. You know, when a little thing goes wrong, well, who cares? That's not what it is at the end of the day.
And a dancer is so strong that, you know, when those things happen, you know, you hardly notice anyway, because you know, you're so technically proficient that you have ways of you know, dealing with that and making you know, making that smooth. And the audience almost always never knows. But I just wanted to talk about that there's a negative side to the ballet world and the eating disorders. That ballerinas have to keep their weight down. There are people who have taken it to the extreme and gotten themselves very sick. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's actually, you know, I felt that was as controversial as it is. That was something that I really wanted to put in the book. And I did a whole chapter on nutrition, and I had a nutritionist, a dietitian contribute to the book and really explain how important it is as athletes to maintain a healthy body weight. You know, it's such an aesthetic art, and we all have this idea of the perfect skinny ballerina, but if you don't maintain proper nutrition, you can't physically do what is expected of you. And in school especially, there's so much pressure during those teen years when your body is changing to look a certain way. It's just not always physically possible. You know, and these kids go through these traumatic feelings, you know, self-image issues, and they don't realize that in a few years their body's going to change anyway. You know what I mean?
So you want to be a ballet dancer. Are you encouraging them? I mean, I read the book, or discouraging them? I mean,
hopefully encouraging. Hopefully encouraging. You know, I do want them to realize, and I want their parents to realize, that it's not all sunshine and roses. You know, there are very serious issues that come along with it, but at the end of the day, if you're passionate about it, there's nothing better. I am so grateful for my career and for having had the opportunity to have a career, you know, in the field of my dreams.
How many companies have you danced with?
Only Miami City Ballet.
Really?
I was so lucky to have found my perfect fit from the get-go.
Are you from Miami?
No, I'm from New York. I'm from New York, yeah.
Really? So you think you would be with, you know, American Ballet Theater or New York City Ballet?
Yeah. No, I was Edward Villela, who was the founding director, artistic director of Miami City Ballet, came up to New York while I was a student at the School of American Ballet, and he held an audition, and he was watching classes there, and when I was 17, he offered me, along with some other of the students, an apprenticeship down here for a year. And at the time, I figured, wow, what a great experience. You know, I'll be there for a year, I'll go back to New York. I've been here ever since, almost 20 years later.
Wow.
That's great.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Really
and I was back, and I was there then. I feel so good about it because, I mean, I'm a fanatic when it comes to the ballet, and I remember when the company was formed, and you were a part of it then. Right at the beginning.
Not at the very, very beginning, but...
Really, they were up... Oh, yes, because Edward came to New York,
me.
of course,
Yeah.
and found you then. Let's talk about, before you go on stage, in addition to doing your hair, the makeup is so important for the ballet.
Makeup is very important. The stage lighting is so strong that you really need to have heavy makeup, and we sweat so much that it has to be, you know, really kind of caked on there to last throughout.
Well, are you taught that? As an apprentice,
No.
as a beginner?
No, actually, you know, I was very lucky. I studied in a very small school in Queens, and my teacher just happened to be very hands-on, and she actually did teach us about makeup, but the majority of ballet students are not taught anything about makeup. We learn from each other. When you join the company, you know, you learn by watching other dancers.
Do you have any rituals that you do right before you go on? Once you're all made up and you're ready to go, is there anything that you could share with us?
You know, it's my one sort of good luck ritual is our wardrobe master, Ricardo Asturias. He has to hook up my costume. If he doesn't hook up my costume, I don't dance. I made him come to my wedding ahead of time to hook up my wedding dress.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Do you, again, I think people don't understand. An actor will come into a play and maybe spend anywhere, 5, 10, 15 minutes doing vocal warm-ups and stretching. You get to work how long before curtain, and what do you do?
That's up to the individual dancer.
What are the ranges?
I'll start, for my comfort, I start getting ready about 2 hours ahead of time.
Whoa.
And that gives me a lot of time to warm up and really, try things out on the stage before the curtain goes up.
What exactly do you do?
Well, there's a company warm-up also, right?
There is, but it's usually several hours before we go on stage, so I'll need to re-warm up. I first get my makeup on, then I get my hair done, and then I just go out on the stage and sort of lay down and take in everything, about the stage. And then little by little, I start to do a bar and warm up and put my shoes on and try out little things here and there from whatever ballet I'm going to dance.
And I also read that you get the jitters before you go on.
Oh, sure.
And what's wonderful is, though, you said it and you're sharing it. Use it. I have to, when I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
as an actress, before I go on, I'm always nervous. And I have taught also, and I always say, use those nerves. I think it helps, doesn't it?
Sure, it's a little extra burst of energy. It is. I enjoy it. It's sort of exciting.
I have to ask you though. I mean, when you get really nervous, it will affect your ability to. It affects your strength. I mean, how do you overcome that? Because you're getting ready to do something that's very strenuous, and if you're, if you got butterflies, and sometimes it
can make you weak in the knees.
It makes you weak. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So how do you marshal that oomph to?
It's practice, I think. Sort of like everything else. You get used to it, you get used to the feeling, and you start to learn how to channel it in a positive way and how to keep control of your muscles and your body, and breath is a big thing. Yeah. And really just, for me it helps eye contact, looking at the other people that I'm dancing with, especially if my husband is out there with me, even better, sort of just grounds you and calms you down.
It's like acting. It's like working opposite a really good actor.
Right.
As long as you have that eye contact, there's this trust and the safety, as you spoke about.
There is, and the times that I've been on stage alone for a solo, sometimes it's so quiet out there. I look at the conductor.
There you go.
And
Before we
that
close,
connection.
I do want to bring out that she has a daughter. We have a ballerina in the making. You took a little time off.
I did.
And look at her now. She's darling. How old is she now?
She's 11 months.
Oh,
Bravo.
congrats.
Thank
Bravo.
you.
Congratulations.
Well, I want to ask our audience, do you still really want to be a dancer?
I do.
I want to thank you so much, Jennifer. This was an education for me. I thought I knew it all. I certainly don't. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
my
having
panel,
me.
and I thank our audience at home. And I want to remind you that there is a way to find out what's going on in South Florida. You just go to floridatheateronstage.com, learn about every theater, every ballet, and the opera as well. And join us, because we tell you what's going on and hope to keep you informed. I learn every time that I'm here. It's an education, this show. And we hope that you will join us again next week, right here on Spotlight on the Arts.